Okay. Randy, where is it?
Thank you, and I have no prepared remarks because I wasn't expecting to do this. But with this many people, and it's good to have you understand what we actually go through to make a program like this come about and be successful. And this one certainly turned out to be way more successful than we ever imagined. It went international, actually. It was on National Fox News one night. And we've had requests from Atheists in Canada for our t-shirts. So I've gotten calls from atheist groups as far away as California wanting to share best practices because this, as Aron was pointing out, this Project Blitz, and actually where I found out about it, first saw it on this In God We Trust push by the far right, the Dominionists, was on a website in California a lady started a number of years ago, and the whole sole purpose of it was to get In God We Trust on police cars, other public vehicles, in the city halls, in the courthouses, and now they're trying to get it in the schools. And some states have passed laws recently that they will put it back in the schools. Now that'll be challenged and hopefully defeated because even though it's our national motto at this point, schools are a little different when we battle these separation of church and state issues because the courts have ruled in the past a number of times that's a captive, impressionable audience of young people, and so it's a little easier for us to battle those battles. But we still battle those battles because it's important to keep the Dominionists out. Otherwise, we'll have our theocracy. So anyway, the banner program. We've done some advertising in the past, a billboard and a bus ad. The bus ad was highly successful too, but none of them came about easily. And the banner program, several years ago in one of our business meetings, we do some roundtable discussions, and a lady named Terry Mace brought up the fact that downtown Fort Worth has this banner program with banners. We kind of put that on our notes and put it aside, and it kind of rested there for a number of years. And the more that we saw In God We Trust being pushed through the public square, we got to think of what can we do. And then, of course, our tax assessor a few years ago here in Tarrant County, and they're still sent out this way, the property tax bills, In God We Trust stamped on the envelopes and also on the bill itself. And I always cross that out and put a little remark of my own when I mailed it back in, but they always took my check. So this is what we do. We meet once a month in our business meetings. We are the activist group in the area. This is what we do. Now, we also provide social settings and education, but what we do is fight separation of church and state in all the ways it rears its ugly head. So this was one. So we thought, okay, if we do some banners, this In God We Trust thing is being shoved down our throats all over the country now. Maybe we should do something to address that. So the banners are not very big, so we knew the message had to be short. And advertising 101, you want to get somebody's attention very quickly, and then you can get your message across after that. So we came up with In God We Trust through a vote. We're a democratic nonprofit, and in our business meetings, if you're a paying member and you attend at least 3 business meetings in a 12-month window, you can vote. But anybody can come to the business meetings, even if you're not a paid member or a voting member. So I went down and started digging through websites of the city of Fort Worth and found that there's a number of banner programs in these cities. Fort Worth does banners directly through the city and other streets. There's a Camp Bowie nonprofit that does Camp Bowie. Then downtown Fort Worth is managed by Downtown Fort Worth Inc., which is a nonprofit with a contract with the city to manage that banner program. So Terry and I got together and we filled out an application, and one of our members, Jim Durr, actually came up with a PDF design, which we kept very simple and to the point. And we submitted that with a deposit, and it wasn't too long after that it got sent back to us, that we'd been refused. So I called my contact up at Dallas Fort Worth Inc., a very nice lady, and I felt a little bit sorry for her because I knew I was putting her right between a rock and a hard place with this. So she sent that back, so I called her, and I said, well, what's the problem? She said, well, I talked to the city attorney, and you just didn't meet all the requirements. And I said, so every single nonprofit that does banners downtown, you talk to the city attorney? So she didn't really have an answer to that one. So she sent us, she was real nice to this whole thing though. She sent us a copy of the city policy on banners, which required an event in Fort Worth, open to the public. And so we put that together and resubmitted. That's why the city response was, hey, they met the requirements, we have to let them do this. Now our intent, of course, is to educate the general public and especially the Christians and on the fact that in God we trust is an exclusionary and divisive motto, and we need a unifying motto like E pluribus unum, which was on our Great Seal. And now there may be another one just as good, but that's the one we're pushing because that's the most visible one, and even Christians are aware of that. So that's how the banner program came about. And the banners went up actually a day early. They weren't supposed to go up to the 13th. They went up on the 12th, and Terry and I were checking our email.
Second.
Okay, well, I got...
Went up on the second.
Oh, give me a break. Okay, second. They went up a day early. So we started getting inundated, not expecting it, with media contacting us. So the bottom line on this, we knew we would get some media attention and probably ruffle some feathers in order to get the attention we needed to get our message out. We had no idea it would do what it did. We have gotten international coverage on this thing, did not expect it. But we're glad we got it. It helps us get that message out. If we can just get that message across to a few Christians that do understand our cause, and we got a lot of emails from Christians that support what we're doing and understand the problem with the current motto. So they go from one end of the spectrum to the other. We got some pretty nasty emails. You know, the next atheist that comes out the door should be hung up by their banners. I hope a Mack truck runs over a bunch of atheists, all the way down to supporting. And I had one Jewish lady that sent an email in supporting what we're doing. So I don't know if there's any Christians in the crowd today. I hope there are, because what we're trying to do is to get our viewpoint on the national motto across, because this hurts Christianity just as much as it interferes with atheist lives having this shoved down our throat and feeling like second-class citizens. I've done citizens input, so that's the banner program. So we got the banners up, and you can see the result, and we've got a full house today, and I'm surprised, but I'm really grateful to who I don't know, but I'm grateful. So anyway, I've done citizens input to city council. I live in North Richland Hills, and they built a new city hall. In God We Trust was a part of the big grand opening they put in the lobby, and I went and did citizens input in opposition to that. And part of the comments I made was, who are the we in God We Trust? Well, that's pretty obvious. It's not us. And what God are they talking about? It's pretty obvious. Now, Proverbs has a verse in it, I can't remember the exact book and verse, that says, trust in God with all your heart. It's great for Christians. Now let's finish the verse. And lean not unto your own understanding. When you walk into a city hall or get stopped by a policeman within God We Trust on his car, and he's not leaning on his own understanding, somehow he's got some kind of direct line to God that he's trusting in for him to do the right thing rather than him using his own judgment and intelligence, it worries me. So that's why we're here today. But that's the banner program. I think we're going to do a panel next. And I'll be on that panel too if you have any other questions about what we do to make these things happen. Thank you.
So anyone who's answering the question will come up and use the microphone at the podium. And we'll just be seated in the chairs.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Gregory, and I guess this is a question to the leadership broadly. With this project, I'm incredibly sympathetic, and I'm wondering what the next step is exactly, and how people who are interested in, furthering this message could get involved.
Well, that's a good question. We've been asking that of each other since the banners went up. What do we do next? So we're not sure, but we will certainly take input and welcome everybody that wants to come to our business meetings and help us figure out what to do next, how to carry this on, because this effort in No God We Trust needs to continue. We might have made a dent, even if it's microscopic today, but it's a start. And how long did it take the civil rights movement to be successful, or the women's right to vote? You cannot give up, and you have to have patience.
Do I just go? Sorry. Do I need like a green light or anything? Hi, I'm Tammy, and I just want to say really quick, I'm really, really happy to be here today. I'm actually, you're not going to clap, I'm a Christian, so I'm happy to be here. And you said that you were happy for Christians to be here tonight. And I'm actually, just for the record, starting off with, if anybody wants to actually have like adult loving conversation after this, I'm so for it, and I really want to talk to you guys. I have quite a story to tell as well, so I'm sure you all do. My question is for you, Randy, specifically. You said during your statement up there that the foundation to why you are part of this campaign and why you're rooting for "In No God We Trust" is because you took from the Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, trust in the Lord with all your heart and do not rely on your own understanding. Whose understanding should we rely on?
Real quick, I just wanted to welcome any Christians to ask questions. I think that's probably part of why we're here as well, and thank you so much for being here.
Of course, thank you for letting me.
That's actually a pretty simple one. You rely on your own understanding, your own morality, and your own humanism that you can have without a belief in the supernatural. That's what you rely on and trust in.
Can I ask just one more question then? Really quick. Okay, I had an Uncle Jeff one time. I no longer call him my uncle, but he's my Uncle Jeff. His understanding was that if he was attracted to me when I was a little girl, that he could do what he wanted with that understanding. So he had his own understanding that that was okay, right? Because it's what he understood to be okay because it satisfied what he wanted in this world. So how can we rely on each individual understanding if we know that this is not something that everybody can rely on? We have to rely on somebody, right? Or we could just rely on Donald Trump.
If I could interject on this one, I mean, that's one of the... all right. If I could interject on this one, that's one of the problems that we have with a personal God. I mean, everybody has their own personal God in their mind, and their God understands exactly why they did whatever it is that they did, and they're completely justified in whatever they did, because, God understands every excuse that you come up with for why you did what you did. So God's completely on your side. God forgives you, right? Even if you end up having to do time for it, God understands that you're not really being punished because he understands why you did what you did, and you're forgiven for it. And so you can go to the death penalty, and God understands because he's your God. He's the God that's in your mind. So, of course, he understands your excuses and exactly what your motivations were, and he's totally down with it. Once you are departed from your body after the death penalty, he's going to free you and exalt you, and so you're not really being punished. So, I mean, when people have this God idea, they're not using, if the Bible says don't rely on your own understanding, it means don't have an understanding at all. Now, others want to understand, and so we're going to check objectively. We're going to get other people's opinions, knowledge, and check with experts and so forth so that we understand what it really is. Unfortunately, with the uncle, the naughty uncle that you're talking about, that statistically is more often in the evangelical camp than anywhere else. Statistics show that the more religious someone is, the more likely abusive they are, or among abusers, the more religious they are, the more and younger victims they have. So this is not something that you can blame on morality of the Christian side and immorality on the non-believer side. It actually goes the opposite way.
Oh no, it wasn't anything about blaming anybody. I just specifically was wondering what Randy thought on the fact that the whole basis of his campaign, his reason for being here is because, or his concern, sorry, I don't mean to say the whole basis, I apologize, Randy, but what you said was your concern is that the reason why that part is in the excuse me, I've actually never spoken in front of a group of people that probably would not go to lunch and meet.
That's all right, you're behind me.
So, okay, I know you have other people, and that's great, but I just wanted to tell you that, or ask you that specifically, is you were generally concerned about that scripture, and that, of course, intrigues me as well, because I'm always open-minded to like, okay, so tell me why, because that's important to me too, to understand. So when you said that made you concerned of why you don't want it to say "In God We Trust," is because you want us to only be able to trust our own understanding. However, we live in a very sad, broken world to where there's a lot of people that we really don't want to depend on their specific understanding.
Yeah, you can catch me afterwards. The only reason I mention that verse is when I'm having a discussion with Christians and it goes a little off the focus, which is the exclusionary and divisive nature of the motto itself. I have made that point about that verse to Christians in city council inputs, just to throw the Bible back at them on their support of the God they trust in, and not leaning on their own understanding.
But just my Uncle Jeff hurt me and God never has. Y'all have a great day. I really do love you all. If anybody wants to talk, please come talk to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello everybody, my name is Steven, and I'm a Christian too, but I'll ask a question, but probably in a different line, a different scenario like here. You know, my main question is, okay, why now? Because we've had atheists all this time, since back in the days. We can go in the history, how Christian not, how religious the founding fathers were. We can go into that, but throughout the times, this model has been challenged so many times. And I'll give you a good, and the secular court, the Supreme Court, have actually have found no fault in it. Probably a good case will be in Lynch v. Dudley, 1984. I'll quote the holding of the Supreme Court, which they said, you know, ceremonial deism are protected from establishment clause scrutiny, chiefly because they have lost through rote reputation of any significant religious context. But so this is not the first time the model is being challenged. So why is it now you guys feel, or I'm sorry for saying you guys, but yeah, the atheists feel they're being targeted, but because this is not the first time it's been challenged.
The reason that I explained is that a coalition of churches have compiled a 116-page manual to blitz our legislatures to convert our country this year into a theocracy. So it's a concentrated effort that they have just started now, which is why we're reacting to that now.
Also, ask any woman in here if she's not feeling the Christian influence of the current government and administration.
Even me myself specifically, you know, there's so many things the secular court. I'm here because there are a lot of decisions made by the secular court. So I can actually trust the judgments the court has said, but based on history, it looks as if, you know, the courts, even the higher institution, nobody has a problem with it. So I don't see why anybody should feel threatened for that matter, because I don't think there's any religious motive being pushed on.
I thought I gave a good long explanation of why we have good reason to be threatened by this. Okay.
Thank you for your question.
Hello, I really appreciate you guys putting it on. It's been very enlightening. My name is Daniel, and I think I'm a closeted atheist. I'm not sure. Not anymore. I'm trying to come out, and here's my question for you. And it's real simple. I guess the best way to describe myself is a Christian, atheist, agnostic deist. I'm not sure there's a God, but I'm not sure there's not. How do you know there isn't? And is that not faith in itself? Thank you.
Hitchens' razor is that which is asserted without evidence may be dismissed without evidence. The burden of proof is on the one making the positive claim. You can rightfully say, no, there isn't a God in response to that positive claim, and you don't have a burden of proof on making the denial of the unsupported assertion. When I was arguing with the people out here in front, they just tell me the things that they believe, asserted as if it's fact. But just simply saying it doesn't make it a fact. And saying, well, it's a fact that Jesus exists. No, that's not a fact. We know what a fact is. We know what the truth is. You don't get to say that I know for a fact that this is the truth if you can't show the truth of it. So the burden of proof is on the one making the positive claim. And I don't have to prove that there is no God, because if you can't show me the truth of that statement, then we have literally nothing to talk about.
Last thing to go with. So wouldn't that make you agnostic then?
I used to call myself an agnostic pagan for Christ. But then I came to understand what agnostic means. Agnostic means you don't know that you're atheist.
Hi, I'm Phil. I'm a 45-year recovering fundamentalist. Been clean for almost 46 years now. Very happy to be here as my first event of this type to attend. I have a kind of a off-the-wall question. It's reasonably well known that Teddy Roosevelt was outspokenly opposed to having "In God We Trust" on the money. But that's all I can find out about that. Should we maybe go back and look at what the newspapers were saying, what kind of blowback he got, what kind of support he got? Because he was actively lobbying to have it taken away. He thought it was sacrilegious. Does anybody know anything about that?
I don't offhand. But that is interesting to look into, sure. I'm sorry?
One of the same dogmas, really, like the first news came out in 1907 or whatever it was, did not have a model. The big ruckus was raised about that. There are coins with no model. And the same dogmas without a model.
And there are early cartoons in like the 1930s that have Porky Pig giving the Pledge of Allegiance without "Under God," because that was added later.
Not sure if I was going to come up and speak, but I got invited here by my husband, who is an atheist. I am not. So which makes life at my house sometimes interesting. I now feel like he does when he goes to church with me for the occasional event that he has to go to. The whole point of my question or my comment now is not based on religion, but it's based on history. And if we go back to the Declaration and the intent of our forefathers, it was separation of church and state. That we were founded on religious freedom, and that means my freedom to believe as I do, and your freedom to believe as you do. And it's not my job to police your belief, and it's not your job to police mine. That's the whole point. So here's my question. Why is it what I, for the most part, have heard today is about atheism and not about separation of church and state? Because if you continue on that tact, in some ways that you have today, you're going to lose the Christian base that believes as I do in the separation of church and state and religious freedom and in history.
Okay, first I want to respond with, I am married to an evangelical wife for 51 years. And she's a fundamentalist, young earth creationist. So I understand that it can work, because you're another example. As far as the history of separation of church and state, or religious freedom, when the colonies were founded, those people were escaping religious prosecution from Europe. They set up colonies, and each colony was dominated by a particular religion that persecuted the other religions in that colony. So they set up their own theocracies in the colonies. And that continued in the states up until at least the early 1800s, and pretty much till the 14th Amendment, which finally, with the 14th Amendment, when the states had to honor the Constitution and the rights guaranteed therein, that you started seeing decisions that separated church from state. And the Texas Constitution still has a clause in it saying atheists not hold public office or be on juries or something like that. And some other states do too, but the 14th Amendment overrides that, so it's a moot point, basically.
In a secular, if this were a proper secular government, there would be no problem of Christians feeling persecuted because we're not allowing them to persecute everyone else. But when they're trying to impose that all of the atheists have to say "In God We Trust," they're creating a polarizing situation. So by forcing, and this is their overt plan, they've admitted that they've said so, that they are trying to Christianize this country, to turn it into a Christian country where we are not welcome. Where one evangelical minister said that all atheists and homosexuals needed to be put on the other side of cyclone fencing until we go extinct. That's what we're facing from the evangelicals. So when the Christians can sit down and shut up and enjoy their religious freedom, then we will all be peaceful. But when they stand up and start making threats against the rest of us, we have to stand up and go nose to nose. And that's what we're seeing right now.
Understand that point. I really do that. And I'm sorry that's how maybe it came across. That's not the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is that I am not alone in my beliefs as a Christian, that on some subjects I will stand with you toe to toe. But if you alienate me with fervor, then you lose my support. That was my only point.
Right, and yeah, I think we do appreciate that, and we do appreciate that. Part of our initiative is to include all perspectives, and so yes, we've talked about atheism today, but I think that's mostly just because this is coming from an atheist organization, and we are among friends of atheists and Christians, and so yeah, we're going to talk about these things, and part of what we believe about the world informs our fervor for making this country better, because we do believe that this is the only life we have, and we have responsibility to make this world better. And so that's part of our activism. That's part of why we're here. So yes, we're going to talk about it, but I would never want to exclude the religious from this initiative, because I do think that this initiative helps the religious as well as the non-religious, and that's part of the point of showing the diversity. Yes, you are the majority, and we respect that, and we also respect your right to believe as you wish and to practice as you wish, and personally I have no issue with that, but not all atheists think the same, and there's no dogma with atheism. There's no central doctrine of what we all collectively as a group think and should behave in a certain way. So yeah, it's a little bit difficult for us to all come together on one unified message and be really sugar-coated or be really firebrand. But I do think that all of us have a valid point and a valid voice, and we reach people in different ways with the things that we care about. So we appreciate your input, though.
Hi, my name's TJ. I'm a member of Metroplex Atheists. I feel like I should have been making this comment at the microphone up there, but I'll make it here. The first lady that spoke, I think maybe one of her concerns wasn't addressed straight on, and that was, it seemed to me she was saying, well, if you don't have God as kind of a basis for your morality and your as a guideline, what are you going on? You know, she seemed to indicate that she had an uncle that just marched to his own drummer. Well, I do have a response to that, and that's that societies long before Christianity, and in addition to Christian societies, have always had a basis for morality based on a principle called mutuality. The Christians didn't invent the golden rule. It has existed in most societies. That is, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's a very sound philosophical principle for morality. And most societies, whether they were Christian or not, have practiced it in some form or another. And it's been encoded in most of their laws. And I remember the great Christopher Hitchens, once in a debate, someone said, well, if you don't have God, what's to keep you from murdering and raping as much as you want to? And Hitch said, well, I do rape and murder as much as I want to, which is to say not at all.
So that's true, and we didn't want to make this about an atheist versus Christian perspective, but yes, I appreciate the answer.
Hi, my name is Randy Honig. I'm an atheist, but I'm also a history teacher.
And I wanted to put something here to help put some of this in perspective. You know, we have this talk of whether or not we were a Christian nation. We often forget that after the Revolution, there was a period of time before the Constitution was written. 8 years we were under the Articles of Confederation. The Articles of Confederation were very much lined us out as a Christian nation. The Articles of Confederation were a horrible disaster. A lot of what Randy brought up about how the colonies, which were now states, were fighting with each other over religious differences, our founding fathers saw that. And when it was time to put the Constitution together, they very carefully made sure God was not a part of it. The very first treaty the United States ever signed was with Tripoli. And when that treaty was signed, it very clearly laid out, it said, we are not a Christian nation in that regard. I encourage you to look that up. It was not ambiguous at all. So this reinterpret.
Yeah, it said America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion. It said, as America is not in any sense founded on the Christian religion.
That is right. So what's going on now, and talk about how we have this combative attitudes towards Christians, and maybe we do because we feel like these founding principles are what has made our nation great, and they're being encroached upon. And it's important that we stand up and make sure that people understand that what made our country great is that we include everybody, and we don't squeeze people out of the formula.
And that is kind of the point. We include everybody, e pluribus unum, not in God we trust.
Or not in God.
I have a comment about a theology or a theocracy, that is, and I've always said that in a theocracy, the heretic is treated no better than the atheist. And that's why it behooves all of us, atheists and believers, to avoid that kind of affair, so that we all be treated equally and not be treated either as atheists or as heretics. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Brandy Jones. I'm also a member of the Metroplex Atheists. Just want to make two short comments. Many of you already know this story, but it really hit home for me. I served 4 years as an officer in the United States Army. When George H.W. Bush was running for president, he was trying to get on a plane one day, and a reporter hit him with a gotcha question. He said, "Hey, can an atheist be a patriot?" Without a split-second delay, George Bush said no. And then he went to elaborate. He said, "Look at your money. It says, 'In God we trust.' We're a Christian nation." Now, if a vice president of the United States and shortly to be president of the United States can misinterpret our national motto as proof that we're a Christian nation, that shows you some of the harm that the motto does. And that was just like a slap in the face of every atheist veteran, and we have tens of thousands of atheists and agnostics serving in our military right this moment. And my second comment is, while the discussion
A little closer to the mic, Randy. A little closer to the mic, Randy. We love you.
Oh, okay. And my second point is, when mottos were being discussed early in our country's history, Benjamin Franklin supposedly humorously stated that our national motto should be, "Mind your business."
I forgot to mention that when we did the protest of Pastor Jeffress, me and a couple other members went in and listened to the sermon. He was giving a sermon, "America is a Christian Nation." And before he started, he read a letter by Mike Pence endorsing the sermon. And also, Pastor Jeffress is a spiritual advisor to Trump. So that was a happy day of like, we're here for separation of church and state, and it's never been more clear than right now.
So over the past couple weeks, it seems like there's been a lot of Christians who, not all Christians obviously, but quite a few Christians who are very deeply offended by "In No God We Trust" on the downtown banners. And my understanding is that the next banners to go up are for Kenneth Copeland's ministry or something along those lines. One thing that strikes me, and I'm just kind of interested in like a perspective from you guys or like a general reaction, how do you guys feel when you see, I mean, maybe there's two different categories. One is a public space where, you know, it's free speech. Another one would be like court systems and, you know, police and that type of thing. But you can talk about all those categories or, you know, those categories separately, but how do you guys feel just seeing In God We Trust on, you know, police, you know, maybe pulling you over because of a broken taillight, or going into a courtroom and seeing it up there, or you know, City Hall, just seeing banners up purporting belief in God, just overtaking our money and so on. Like, how does that feel to be in a culture like that every day? I feel like, if looking at how Christians have responded over the last 2 weeks, I feel like if the shoe was on their, several Christians, again, not all, I feel like if the shoe was on the other foot, a lot of them would lose their minds. Do you have that reaction? Does it really deeply affect you to go through that?
I think being from this country and being born here, I think we're all used to it. We're all used to seeing the number of churches and the banners for America's Christian Nation sermons, you know. It's a part of the country that we live in, and it's not a bad part of the advertisement of different religions if they're, you know, private companies, but it is a problem when it's on institutions that are supposed to be inclusive and secular and non-religious. So it is scary when you see it on police cars or in courtrooms, because there's a place for religion, and it's a very substantial, important place that religion holds in the country, but that's not the place for it. And it is scary when that gets forgotten. Again, right now for women, it's scary that as a nation, a lot of us are forgetting the role that religion should and shouldn't play in our democracy.
It bothers me most when I see In God We Trust on elementary schools, because I know the children are being misled and deceived into thinking that this is a Christian country. They go to church twice a week and they're told that this is a Christian country. They're lied to constantly. I testified with many experts to the Board of Education for this state, and all of these professors and ministers and so forth, and everybody had a history degree and all of that, and everybody gave testimony unanimously across the board, except for one activist who was working for a religious organization. They all said that America is not in any sense founded on Christian idea. There's no covenant between God and Moses. Moses was not an inspiration for the Founding Fathers. The Founding Fathers listed who the inspirations were. The Bible not only did not make the list, but in a couple of exceptional statements, the Founding Fathers said the Bible's not part of it. We did not base it on the Bible. We didn't base it on Christianity. They were very clear about this. And the testimony was so compelling, but the Board of Education is determined to teach American exceptionalism. That is a doctrine that they are required by their religious perspective to enforce, even if they know that it is a lie, and they know that it is a lie, but they are teaching it to our students anyway. And that's the part that really irritates me. They know it's a lie, and they're going to teach it anyway, because, as one person put it, it's important that that's what the students believe.
I ask everyone to think about a cop car pulling somebody over, and the cop car says In God We Trust, and the car they're pulling over has an atheist bumper sticker. Would it be impertinent to me to ask the audience a question? How many here, having heard the arguments that In God We Trust is divisive and doesn't sit well, it doesn't really reflect our nation, and is inconsistent with our history, how many think that In God We Trust should absolutely stay our national motto? Show of hands. How many here think that the motto should be changed to E Pluribus Unum? Thank you. That says a lot.
And that is, you know, we laugh about the concern about atheist bumper stickers and in God We Trust on police cars, but that is a real concern. People have that happen when they're pulled over. Things are said or things happen. Aron Ra has had his car vandalized, and that's why I don't put atheist stickers on my car. I don't feel like I can, and that is sad that there are certain views in this country that are completely valid and not harming anyone that are a danger to the person who holds them, so not good.
Hi guys, my name is TJ Tuttle. I'm a member of Metroplex Atheists. I'm also a host of Atheist Edge, a YouTube channel. What I wanted to ask is a couple questioners ago, the gentleman said something about Kenneth Copeland Ministries being advertised on banners in downtown Fort Worth. So my question was, do you think that represents a separation of church and state issue, since the city of Fort Worth uses monies collected and revenues collected from Fort Worth residents to pay a third-party contractor to put those banners up? Do you feel like it's an endorsement of religion?
I hadn't heard about that. I don't know. Is that the same ones that we put our banners up with?
I believe so, because they said the next banners would be Kenneth Copeland Ministries.
I mean, I think the fact that they put our banners up shows that the taxpayers are paying for multiple perspectives, and religion is okay in, like, say, a city hall if all perspectives are represented. And our satanic groups have made sure we understand that as well, and helped us to make that message clear to Christians, so we appreciate you guys for that too. So yeah, I think as long as everyone is represented, or everyone has an equal chance of being represented the way that we have, I don't have a problem with that.
And as far as the legality of it, the City of Fort Worth has a stated policy on exactly what the banners need to state in regarding an event or a few other categories for your banner. They only allow nonprofits, and they do allow religious advertising as long as you're promoting an event like we're doing, or there's a few other categories. So it's open to anybody that meets those criteria, whether you're an atheist group or a religious group.
All right, just one quick plug before I get off the podium. That's Atheist Edge. It's a YouTube channel. We're always looking for subs and likes, and bang that bell. Make sure you stay up, abreast of all the videos that we drop.
And
make sure you stay up, abreast of all the videos that we drop.
And if you want a copy of the of this talk to send it to people, or just to have it or whatever, it will be posted on that channel, Atheist Edge.
That's right, and we have all four hosts here today. It's Courtney Stewart, myself, TJ Tuttle. Jim Hall is also here. He's the founder of Atheist Edge. Big ups to him. It's his brainchild, it's his baby. And we also have Chris, our other host, here too as well.
So my name is Chris Cleveland. I'm not an atheist, I'm an agnostic. Used to be an atheist. What's that? Are you sure? I am sure. I am sure. I've got my reasons, but I just wanted something that you said a second ago kind of goes into what I was going to talk about. You mentioned, if you'd say it again, the comment about atheists and heretics. Yeah. Oh, it's Terry? I'm sorry.
Yeah,
What was your comment about atheists and heretics are viewed the same way in a theocracy?
Yeah, atheists are treated no better than heretics, or heretics are treated no better than atheists in a theocracy.
And that would be because the Christians typically
But not just Christians.
attack.
Yeah, not just Christians, any theocracy, regardless of what the religion is.
religion.
Heresy, apostasy, and blasphemy
are all punishable by death in some countries around the world. Unfortunately, we live in the United States where blasphemy is not a crime, it's a right.
Okay. And so you would agree that that is not something that we want in the country or anything represented in our country, correct?
That's correct.
So this is my issue right now as an agnostic. I'm very moderate based. I do agree with obviously I didn't raise my hand when you said we don't need to have in God we trust as our motto. The way it's presented and the way that you discussed in your portion of the seminar was very much attacking Christian as blasphemous to your beliefs. I believe the way that this whole thing should be presented is more even keel, where it's not attacking each other, attacking what each person believes in, more in an even keel based, agnostic type of base, where you need to be free to feel what you feel, I'll believe what I feel, and let's keep it all above board that way.
While I agree that my statements were in the form of a defensive counterattack to an attack, I don't think it's possible to blaspheme my beliefs. I don't think I have beliefs, and if I did, you couldn't blaspheme against them. I'm open to other opinions, and I'm not going to react negatively. Okay.
I'm exactly the same way. In fact, my fiance thought up until the day that I was absolutely atheist. And seeing the point and everything and the difference in the way I believe and the way that it's presented here today, she obviously believes I'm more agnostic than atheist now. I think this kind of goes, my thought on this kind of goes to the woman that was speaking earlier that was Christian, and going to the fact that the way it's being presented right now, from the atheist perspective that's pushing on this right now, I'm fine with, but you're at the point where if you're attacking the Christian belief in the way that you do it, you're going to alienate that moderate base of Christians that are going to be perfectly fine with it because you're attacking them and putting them back on the hills.
Well, this country was founded by a coalition that included Christians who understood the importance of secularism. And Christians who still understand the importance of secularism are not going to be, a party to they're not going to be subject to the attack that I'm making. I'm talking about evangelicals, Christian nationalists, Christian dominionists. I named the specific groups, creationists and so forth. These are religious extremists who are trying to Christianize this country. These are not people who understand the value of secularism. Now, Christians who want to impose their religious beliefs, I'm going to blaspheme them with both barrels because they deserve it. And that's the best response that I can give, is to show them how ridiculous their beliefs are. Now, if other Christians are offended by that, then maybe they should get the evangelicals to sit down and shut up.
Do you think that you would get the message across of what you want, which is, in this particular case, it's getting the motto changed? Do you think that's actually going to help with getting the motto changed?
We need every approach. Mine is the bulldog, and I realize that there are other speakers who are better than I am. But
no, I did not mean to raise my hand.
I feel that there are other speakers who are better than I am, but some of them need somebody to clear the way or break up the crowd so that they can speak, and that's my job. And I think we need every approach, and ridicule is certainly one of them, and that's going to be a tool that I'm going to use.
Did not mean to raise my hand at that. But I do raise my hand that, like, I'm more a representation of what you're saying, of I'm wanting to build bridges and build understanding and not alienate people of religious belief. And that is, for me and for, I think, our group initiative, that's more the message that we're making, is that this is a fight that includes the interests of Christians as well as non-Christians, and anyone outside of the Christian worldview. So really everybody that's an American. And so that's, yeah, no, I agree with you that we shouldn't be alienating the Christians who believe in Christianity but still support us. But I think what Aron is talking about are people who are fighting against that message, and that calling them out for that is important. But like Aron was saying, I do support every perspective in this debate, and every tactic, because I do think it takes multiple tactics to get this message across.
I believe so as well, and I appreciate that. I'll leave it at this. Just for me, I respect your opinion, Aron. Is it? I don't know how to pronounce your name. Is it Aron? Aron. Apologize.
Yeah, and I was specifically talking about the people who are trying to undermine the First Amendment, because I see atheist activists as being the foremost defenders of the entirety of the First Amendment, not just the Prohibition Clause and the Establishment Clause, but also free speech and freedom of the press and the right to peaceably assemble and all of that, all of the things that the current administration is trying to destroy. These are the things that we are defending.
oneness with the Crossroads Assembly. So I want to first compliment y'all on So I want to compliment y'all on the campaign. So the banner campaign is fantastic, and that's the kind of what would you say methodology that needs to be used. But I have to complain towards the Christians when when your brethren are threatening us and saying that they're going to put us in camps, they want us apart, they want to kill us, go back where you came from. When you use language like that, how are we supposed to respond? And when we do respond, and the request is then, please be nice, please be gentle. How do you want me to receive this message? You're threatening my life. This is America. These tactics go both ways. So, I would ask that, don't ask the oppressed to play nice when you're threatening death.
I try to address the moderate Christians and try to get the Christians to put the brakes on the other Christians. I remember once upon a time I addressed a group of Christians that I was working with. I said, did you watch the Trinity Broadcast Network? Did you see Pat Robertson tell his 30,000 some odd subscribers to go out and kill homosexuals where you find them because he thought that would prevent earthquakes? And they said, well, he's not a true Christian. Well, maybe he's not a true Christian, and that's the excuse for why you're donating money to this organization that in turn funnels money to his organization. You are directly funding him and letting him say all of this stuff in your name and on your dime. But I can't get anybody to respond. I can't get Christians to read a chick tract. I can't get them to watch Trinity Broadcasting Network. I can't get them to watch Kenneth and Gloria Copeland and call them out for lying to people about faith healing and how they're not really curing these people of their cancer. They just want to do the no true Scotsman thing and say, I'm fine. I don't have to be responsible for anybody else. That's frustrating to me.
Yeah, and it's funny because you'll see what is termed Islamic terrorism, and if only they would, talk to, those groups, and if Islam would take care of itself, then we wouldn't have these problems. Let's turn that on Christians as well. I need you to rein in your really hard-edged people and stop calling for my death. And then maybe we can actually have a dialogue.
Yeah, there's not many of those people, but I have to confess that there are a few. I did a debate with one a 3 weeks back. Somebody named Inspiring Philosophy on YouTube, he's a Christian, and he makes it his job to try to educate other Christians on the matter of evolution, to get Christians to understand that evolution is really a thing. It doesn't have to be a threat to their faith. There are other Christians who also do try to reach out and control some of the extremists, which is necessary because they're certainly not going to listen to us.
Thank you guys for hosting this event. This is the first event that I've attended where I've not been the only atheist in the room, and that is super comforting. I come from a super strict evangelical family where from infancy until I was able to reason enough on my own, that was basically the only option that anybody different was going to perish in hell for all eternity. And to the Christians in the room, if you're representing your faith and you're going to be outspoken about your faith, then wouldn't you do better to be more Christ-like and operate with love and compassion? My husband is immigrating from another country. We've been going through the process legally. He didn't want me to come today. He was scared that someone might come and shoot the room up. Unfortunately, that's a legitimate concern. I quit watching Handmaid's Tale because it got a little too freaky for me, because it was paralleling reality too closely. I get discriminated against, and I'm not even dark or super brown, but I was born in this country. English is the only language that I've ever spoken, but yet I have had opportunities taken away from me because of the color of my skin or because of my maiden last name, which is it's Duran, but I am offended by Christians. I feel attacked by Christians. I feel unsafe by extremist Christians. And I think it's disgusting that In God We Trust is not only on our currency, but on our police vehicles. I'm sorry, if there were real Christians operating in the world, these detention centers that are separating children from their families wouldn't exist.
All right, you have a question?
Hi, I'm Ken. My first time at a place. Did my 4 years in the military like the other lady did.
Thank you for your service.
Not why I joined. I appreciate your thanks, but it's not why I joined. It's not why anybody joins.
Thank you for saying that. I'm a vet.
Thank you. Anyway, to kind of get this back on track a little bit, In God We Trust. If you don't understand why it's offensive, you should talk to Hindus, Buddhists, who do not have a God or have multiple gods. A singular God is unique to 3 religions in the world: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Everybody else has more than one or none at all. That is why it is offensive. It eliminates over half of the world and over half of the religions. I don't really have a question. I just felt that that needed to be said. Well, technically Zoroastrians have only one God.
Right, yeah. Not a question type. This is kind of a response to like Christians are suddenly feeling attacked. I don't know about anyone else, but did you view the Facebook comment threads in response to these banners? I think there's a pretty clear winner on who is being attacked. We're clearly the ones that are being oppressed, and like some they're uncomfortable disclosing their lack of belief and living their way, whether it be like being able to have some kind of vehicle identifier or whatever. You know, like I actually have my license plate clearly designates me as a non-believer. When I got that from the county, she opened it up, looked at my custom plate, looked at me and said, "That's me." How is that mean? How is self-identifying mean? I don't understand that. We have plenty of people that have crosses on their vehicles. They have the pagan fish on their vehicles. And it is sweeping legislation, or you know, certain localities they're putting In God We Trust on public vehicles. It's been brought up, you know, like who is it they're protecting? Or are we going to be, you know, biasly punished, you know, for traffic infractions that, you know, maybe like a warning for someone else or whatever? If it is true that they trust in God on public vehicles, police vehicles, whatever, why are they wearing bulletproof vests? Why do they have a gun? Why do they have tasers? Why do they have pepper spray? You know, like that's what we're getting at. You know, it's like you need to be out there representing everyone. You're a community servant, you need to represent everyone. As far as the... Say it again?
You're suggesting they change the motto to protect and serve?
Well, I actually saw one, I think it was in Arkansas, instead of In God We Trust, they put We the People. And I'm like, good, that's inclusive. You know, instead of, if you want E pluribus unum, We the People, hey, either one, it's completely inclusive. You know, do what? To a question? Okay. Would Christians then feel offended if they're at a Rangers baseball game and some atheist song came on? You had to stand up 7th inning.
Yes.
You know, God bless America. They disguise it as support for the troops. Has anyone paid attention to the lyrics of that song? It says it's nothing about veteran support or anything like that. What we're saying is that it's shoved in our lives in every way. It's on current paper currency, 1954, and coin currency before that. You know, like it's everywhere. It's on. We get our vehicle registration. It's there. So would Christians then feel upset if it was reversed? Would they be okay with putting "In No God We Trust" on every piece of state or government document? Would that be okay? So, right. I mean, I'm sorry Starbucks only has happy holidays on your cups, but this is real. This is like legislation and government. And so we need to, this needs to be discussed. This isn't just an atheist rally, it's about secularism. So.